got some good news about Trent and Erling Haaland. Unfortunately, though, Mo Salah picked up an injury at AFCON. I've also put together my thoughts on an optimal chip strategy depending on which chips you have left to go for the rest of the season. These are my thoughts going into Game Week 22. All right, Erling Haaland up first then, and we've got some positive news on his front. He himself and Man City have tweeted pictures of him training in Abu Dhabi at the Man City training camp. So that's really good news. You know, he's back in training, and his next fixture being a week away at the time that I'm recording this video. You know, if he's back in training a week before the next game, you got to think he's probably going to be featuring in that. Burnley at home is the fixture. I mean, you couldn't ask for much better fixture for him to have first up. Man City have an incredible record against Burnley. Not that means much because Burnley are very different under Vincent Kompany, but I do feel like they could well score a few goals. FPL Review has Haaland as the top player for expected points in Game Week 22. He's ahead of Eze and Richarlison as the next two. I mean, all those things considered, I think he's a really smart transfer in if you can get back to him. I mean, I've done a little player profile on him. Not that really I need to give any info about Erling Haaland. I mean, he is probably the best asset in FPL, right? He was the top scoring player in the game last season. And with Salah being out injured, more to follow about Salah in upcoming segments. But yeah, with Mo Salah likely injured, you know, people are going to have a lot of cash spare in FPL, right? And I think, you know, maybe going without Haaland was a viable option earlier in the season. But given, you know, Man City seem to have hit their title running form, and he has a double game week in 25. I think it really makes sense to go for him. He's the top player. Of course he is for expected points over the next 5 game weeks. Of course, that factors in the fact they've got a double game week in 25, which I think we'll get onto chip strategy in a second. But if you still got it, I think game week 25 is a real opportunity to triple captain Haaland. You know, with no Salah and Son, like I said, there's plenty of cash in the bank now for most FPL players. And Burnley at home, you couldn't really ask for a better fixture to return on. Looking at the stats, I mean, 1.12 expected returns per 90 is the one I want to focus on there. I mean, the guy is expected to get an attacking return every time he steps out onto a football pitch, basically. He's got 19 returns from 15 starts. Just an incredible record. Obviously an incredible player. And I think, you know, if we don't get any negative news about him, you know, Pep saying he's had another setback, etc., I think he's a shoo-in for most people's teams. Okay, so the Liverpool assistant manager Pep Lijnders gave us a really positive update on Trent. He said he's progressing well with his rehab and he's likely to be back for this weekend for the FA Cup fixture that Liverpool have. That's obviously really good news for FPL because that means he's probably going to be fit for game week 22. I can't really say any more about Trent than that. You know, that's the most update that we've got on him at the moment. I think, you know, we'll see whether he features or gets benched or however, you know, Liverpool play out that FA Cup fixture with him, and that will give us a bit more info on whether he's going to start in game week 22. My personal opinion, you know, I think his minutes will be managed in the FA Cup fixture at the weekend with a view to start him for game week 22, the FPL fixture. I think he's a fantastic option if that's the case. Similar to what I did with Haaland, I thought I'd put together a little player profile on Trent. One thing I'd like to say before I go through any detail about him, I don't really consider Trent as a defender when I look at his points potential. Now, obviously, that's his position in FPL, right? But because of his extreme attacking upside and Liverpool being one of the best defenders in the league, right? He's a player that can get attacking returns and clean sheets. So he's got returns through 3 different means, right? Goals, assists, and clean sheets. And when you top them all up this season, he's got 13 returns from 17 starts. Now, if you compare that to a midfielder of a similar price, you know, if you picked a midfielder that got 13 returns from 17 starts for 8.5 million, you consider them a bit of a bargain. So, you know, people saying Trent is really expensive as a defender, yeah, fair enough, he is. But when you think of his, you know, potential points returns, I think he's a really good price for that. And as I said, Liverpool have really improved defensively. No doubt about it this season. They've kept 7 clean sheets. Well, when Trent's been in the team, they've kept 7. And Robertson is due back at the same time as Trent. So I think that's only going to boost their defensive stocks. Thus, they have some potentially tough fixtures, right? Chelsea, Arsenal in game week 22 and 23. I mean, Chelsea, Liverpool could keep a clean sheet in that one. And then Arsenal, you know, potentially Arsenal scoring that. However, you know, I wouldn't rule out Trent getting attacking returns in that. And then they got Burnley 24, potential double game week in 25, and Luton in game week 26. I mean, what a fantastic run that is. And particularly without Salah being in the side as well. that could mean more, attacking threat goes through Trent, particularly because he plays on the right-hand side, the same place that Salah does. So, I guess, there could be an upside or a downside to that. Obviously, Trent and Salah complement each other really well on that right-hand side. So if, it's Jota playing there, filling in for Salah, I think the dynamic needs to work itself out there. But, ultimately, I don't think it means bad news for Trent. Yeah, I think he's a great option if you can get to him. Now, I'm not going to spend too long talking about Mo Salah because I imagine the news has already reached you, but I just wanted to make sure I was 100% factual with the update that I gave you all about Mo Salah, because it's important to establish what the facts are. So we've got a quote again from the Liverpool assistant manager Pep Lijnders, who's described the situation with Salah at the moment. So they've done a detailed scan on his hamstring and have confirmed that it's a proper tear of it. And he thinks that means he's expected to be out for at least 3 or 4 weeks, if everything goes smoothly with his recovery. So yeah, 3 or 4 weeks means it's squeaky bum time really for that potential Liverpool double in 25. 3 or 4 weeks with a player being out, I think he's probably a sell if you still have him. People would have benched him for the, upcoming AFCON games just with a thought that he was going to return soon and just be straight back in the team. But, given he's injured, Man City have a double in 25. I'd definitely consider Salah a sell. And, if I was looking to buy him, I'd just wait. I'd make plans with other players, basically, at this point. And then if he is due back, you can probably tear up your team to get him back in or use a chip for the double in 25, was my thinking. But, yeah, with him out for 3 or 4 weeks, I just don't think you need to take any risks. And, yeah, you can make a transfer to sell him at this point. Now, I have made a separate video about a chip strategy, but I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that I said in that video. And also, we've had some fixtures in the cup games play out now, so we have a bit more info on doubles and blanks, and I thought it'd be useful to update the chip strategy, basically. I'm not going to go through massive detail about each of the chips. I think if you're watching this video, you know what the function of each chip is at this point, but this slide tells you that. You feel free to pause it, and the little synopsis on the right will tell you what each chip does. But what I thought I'd do is use a slide to explain all the chips, use a slide to explain all the fixtures, and then look at potential, game weeks where the chips could be deployed. One more thing before I go into the fixtures, there isn't a say-all be-all answer to when is and what is the best chip strategy, right? Everyone's got a different team, different players, and people might have used their chips already, or at least some of them already. So it's impossible to do a one-size-fits-all chip strategy, but hopefully the information I'm about to give you, you can tailor it to your specific team and, your aims and goals for the season maybe, and use it to deploy a chip strategy for yourself. So fixtures coming up then. Game week 25, we've got a potential double, Man City and Brentford and Liverpool and Luton. The Man City and Brentford one is confirmed. The Liverpool and Luton one, I'd say, is 70 to 80% likely. We'll know more about that by the Game week 22 deadline. Game week 26 is likely to be a blank caused by the teams that reach the EFL Cup final. So Chelsea, they've obviously reached the EFL Cup final, so them and their opponents in Game week 26 will now blank. Game week 29 is likely to be a big blank game week, and that's caused by the Premier League teams that reach the FA Cup quarterfinals. Game week 34, that's due to the Game week 29 rescheduling, struggling to get my words out there. That could be a double or a blank. And then game week 37 is expected to be the biggest double game week of the season, with even more fixtures from game week 29 being rearranged to that point. So my source for that is Ben Krellin. Keep an eye on that Twitter account for the latest update on fixtures. But that's what we know at this point. Obviously, Chelsea being a blank in 26 is now confirmed. And yeah, probably got a big double coming up in 37 as well. So what does that mean for your chips then? Well, the free hit, we all know what that does. It's best used basically when you need to make some emergency changes for one game week. And I would personally use it to target either a big blank or a big double game week. Now, game week 26, you could use it then if you've got, Liverpool, Chelsea players, because they're most likely to, I'd say, blank in 26. That's caused by the EFL Cup final, as we know. So yeah, you could potentially use it on that game week. Game week 29 is a big blank game week, and that's caused by the FA Cup quarterfinals. Thinking logically, good teams with good FPL options are probably going to make the FA Cup quarterfinals, right? So if you were to think of a week where, most likely most people are going to have a lot of players missing, probably game week 29. So for that reason, I think that might be the best time to use the free hit. Likewise, game week 34 and 37, you could deploy the free hit to target the doubles, right? Game week 37 is likely to be a bigger double game week than 34. So that's probably the time I'd deploy it. So game week 29 and 37 are probably my two favorite times to use the free hit. However, team dependent, it could be a different answer for you. That's just my thoughts. triple captain then, I think given that Man City are going to have a double in 25 and Salah is injured, I think getting Liverpool assets in isn't going to be that difficult. Most people probably already have a couple Man City players. So, maximising points from that double game week 25, you can probably do that without, deploying your free hit or your wild card at this point, which makes me think that the triple captain is probably best used in game week 25. And if Salah's fit, you could well stick it on him. But if, Haaland's fit, I think he's probably the best triple captain for that week. That's probably when I'd use it. But likewise, you could as well use it in double game week 34 or 37 as well, depending on what those fixtures say. But I think given that, Man City have a double in 25, that's the time to use it, in my opinion. Now, the wild card then, you could, if your team is in absolute disarray come game week 25, you could well use it to prepare for then. If you own 0 Liverpool players, 0 Man City players, you could use your wild card to bring them in then. Obviously, cognizant that Liverpool probably blank in game week 26. Likewise, personally, I just think it's always best to hold on to your wild card for as long as humanly possible. And I think I'd save it till game week 37 or 34, in my opinion. Depending on, what the landscape of double game weeks and blank game weeks look like compared to your team. Personally, I just always get benefit from holding on to my wild card for as long as possible and really using it when my team is in absolute disarray or there's a really good blank or double game week that I want to target. And finally, that leaves you with the bench boost. Now, I think the bench boost is personally always best deployed in conjunction with a wild card. So you wild card, in my opinion, the week before a double game week, and then bench boost on the double with 15 players that have 2 fixtures. You could pick an entire bench that starts and likely to play both games of the double. And if game week 37 is predicted to be the biggest double game week of the season, I'd personally be looking to wildcard, I think, in 36 with a view to bench boost in 37. So the way I'm thinking of playing things, I'll go back to the fixtures. I'm probably going to triple captain game week 26. I'm probably going to free hit game week 29. I'm probably going to wildcard in 36 and then bench boost in game week 37. Based on the current layout of fixtures in my team, that chip strategy works best for me. You can come up to your own conclusions with that. It all depends on what chips you've already used and what team you have currently. I'd be interested, actually. Let me know in the comments, based on what I've told you here, what your thoughts are on a chip strategy. All right, and that's the end of the video. Just summarizing my thoughts on the key, injury updates and, of course, a chip strategy at the end there. Again, like I said, there's no one-size-fits-all answer for chip strategy at the moment. It all depends on what chips you have left and what players you have in your specific teams. But if you enjoyed the video and found it useful, I'd really appreciate if you could leave me a like rating. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you've got a chip strategy of your own or if you have any thoughts on mine. And if you want to see more content from me, you can subscribe to the Goal on a Goal channel. It should be just there. And I will catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching.